I've never known this to happen before, but now you're going to get a chance to talk to the 3 stars of Laramie who still remain, Jess, Harper, and Mike. We're going to have about an hour. Well, it's going to be a little bit short, and we'll run about an hour and 10 minutes we'll get. So ask them lots of good questions. They haven't come here to sit quiet, they've come here to answer your questions, to talk to you, to tell you all the things you want to know. And there's a lot of you, so we hope you get some good questions. But let me introduce first Bobby Crawford. Now, Mr. Dennis Holmes. And last but not least, Robert Ford. We have a roving mic, so we've got 2 lovely ladies to run around. We're going to keep them very busy. Bonnie and Denise, you know which side you're going to take? You guys got your mics on?
On.
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know about you all, but that brought tears to my eyes. Sitting next to him all these years later is unbelievable. And he'll be coming up soon.
Do you know, I want you to move this. You guys see it, right? Oh, it's going to be 25.
Good news.
Okay, well, first of all, welcome guys, welcome back.
Thank
back
you.
to Laramie.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all. I know we've got a whole bunch of Robert Fuller fans and members here. I'd like to see the new group, people who've never done this before. Can you just raise your hands? Oh, that means lots of questions, doesn't it? I'd like to start just by talking to you, Bobby, because this was the very first episode of Laramie. You had done quite a bit of acting, but here you were now in a series of your own. What was going through your mind at that time? This is a young kid, with all this and all this responsibility to take on, and all this work to do.
Well, I was always stunned that I had the luck to get roles. My Sunday school teacher was my agent. Didn't know that when I started Sunday school. But Jean Halbert and Dorothy Macklin were 2 ladies that had been in Hollywood for many, many years. And so my brother and I would go to Sunday school. And I think it was like 6 years old that I got first little bit of interest in commercial here or there. And so I was 15 actually by the time I got on Red Laramie, just turned 15 in '59. And had done a live television show called Child of Our Time. And the producer of the early seasons, Robert Pyrosh, had seen that. And so had me come in to do a screen test, and that's all I knew I was going to do, go in to get a screen test. Turned out to be the screen test with Robert Fuller. And we did the scene where he draws on me and I drop the apple pie. That went well enough. I had done enough work that I felt pretty comfortable on the set. I had no expectations to get the series really, but was pleased that I'd done the work and was surprised that the next day they called and said I had been set for the series. My brother had been doing The Rifleman now for a year and has been a great success on that show. And I'd done a couple of episodes in the months preceding this opportunity. And so I felt, wow, what synchronicity that I would get on a show at the same time. I was a little worried about school and taking time away because I was approaching college and thinking that's where I'd be headed, really get a real career going. And so we did start the series, and all I know is my first day on the set, I was nervous as hell. And our first scene was a scene we'd done easily. Instead, what happened was I dropped the apple pie, and in my excitement, I was so tickled at the way it splattered. The gravity into that apple pie was all my attention. And 13 takes later, we got the scene. On television, you get 2 takes maybe, and that the director and Bob and everybody tolerated that moment of hysteria on my part lasted. I also don't think I did more than 2 takes after that.
Never in your life on our show did you do more than 2 takes. So 1 take actor, a great actor. So much fun to work with.
Okay, that's my token question. Now it's your turn. So let's see a show of hands if you have questions. Nobody. Have we got anybody with a question? Okay. Keep your hand up so Bonnie can get to you.
This is for Robert. You are such a beautiful writer. Please tell me that you wrote the horse completely the whole time and all those scenes and didn't have a double.
I can't see who's asking. Where are you? Yes, you're saying about riding horse. I forgot to put my hearing aid in.
It was for Jess, I'm sorry.
It was for Jess, okay.
I didn't get the question, Tony.
Sir, can you repeat that question, please?
Yes, Jess was such a beautiful writer. I always wanted to know in those faraway shots if he was actually riding that horse or if it was...
Nobody ever rode that horse besides me. That was my horse.
You are beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I try to pattern my writing as far as one of the best writers in the world, who was Joe McCrae. I'm sure I never stood up to him, but I did my best.
Hands.
Thank you. Be still my heart. This is amazing to be in the room with you 3 men. My question is for all 3 of you. Do each of you have a favorite episode that you were in?
Dennis.
Ladies' Day.
What did you just say, Dennis?
Ladies' Day.
Oh, okay.
The one where I get to take the horse that's about to buck him off up to Jack Mahoney.
Bobby, did you have one?
I don't know. I can't put the episodes all together and pick out a favorite. I just love being on the set all the time. I think the most memorable is obviously the first episode. That was just such a thrill to be working with these guys. And every day I got on the set with John Smith and Bob, it was like being on set with the gods. They were just great guys. They were peak of their careers happening, and that I got to be a part of it and be around Boogie Carmichael was really just like a dream.
Well, like Bobby just said, it's very difficult. We did so many of the shows to pick one out particularly. But I'm going to pick 2 out. I'm going to pick that Stay Stop because it's the first one that we did, and you and I worked together, and you told the story about us testing together, which was great. And then, of course, in the 3rd season, when Dennis took over with the Japanese tribute that we did, that was one of my favorite.
That's that Dragon.
Because you and I met for the first time on that.
Yep.
And this has been a beautiful friendship for 60 years. So.
You had a fondness for Jewel at Alta Mesa, though, didn't you?
Yeah, the fight scene?
Yeah.
Oh, that was my favorite fight scene. Of course, I did with Al. Yeah, sure. I think you all know I did my own stunts and did all the horse work and everything in that show. I don't know if the boys know it, but I staged every fight and I directed every fight that I was involved in all those shows. I did it.
You ever get hurt?
And what?
You ever get hurt? You ever get hurt?
Not on Laramie, I didn't. No. You're not going to talk about wagon train, are you? No, I got hurt one time. I got it all these years, broke my leg once or twice, but that's no big deal.
This one's for Robert. You know, I've only seen it in transcripts. I've only read about it, but I'd like to hear your version of when you first met Jack Webb.
Oh my God. All right, I'm going to make it very quick because most of you have heard it before, but I'll tell
Mike
you very
first.
quickly. What?
Mike first.
Okay, great. All right. All right. Laramie is over. Wagon train is over. 1959-60 in those days, everybody knows there were 32 westerns in prime time. Well, they all went that way. And by the time 1969, 1970 came around, there were no westerns on the horizon. But guess who was looking for one? And it wasn't there. So one day my agent calls me and he says, Jack Webb is doing a new television series and he wants you to star in it. And I said, what's the name of it? And he said, it's called Emergency. And I said, Emergency? I said, that sounds like a medical series. And he says, it is. And I said, well, I don't want to do a medical series. I want to do a Western. And my agent said, there's not a Western on the horizon. Please believe me, this is not an interview. Jack Webb wants you and no other actor in Hollywood to play Dr. Brackett on a new medical series. And I said, I don't want to do a new medical series. I said, I at least owe the man the courtesy to go in and tell him that I don't want to do his series. And he said, well, they're all expecting you at Universal Studios. This is where I did Laramie and Wagon Train also, at Jack's office tonight at 7 o'clock, after hours. And I said, well, at least I owe him the courtesy. So I put a suit and tie on and I showed up at his office, which is bigger than this room right here, with all of the Hollywood, the Universal brass in there. He's got a full bar set up, everybody's sitting having cocktails. And I walk into the office and I walk up to Jack Webb's desk. And I said, Mr. Webb, it's a pleasure to meet you. I said, I'd like to watch you forever, like your work. But I really have to tell you, I'm not interested in doing a medical series. And he looked up at me and he said, shut up and sit down. Jack Webb. Everybody knows who Jack Webb is. And I kind of, it took me back, it really did. And he said, do you drink? And I said, yeah. He said, go fix yourself a drink and come back and sit down. Just like that. So I went to the bar and poured a big glass. And I came back and I sat down in front of his desk with all the brass. And I walked out of that office 2 hours later with 12 pages of a 2-hour world premiere television movie called Emergency with 13 episodes sold behind it. Thank goodness. Instead of saying sit down, he could have said get out.
I have something to add. Yesterday, a gentleman walked up and said, Mr. Fuller, I became a physician because of you on Emergency.
We started the paramedics. And, in 1970, there were 3 paramedics in the whole state, whole United States. And shortly after that, paramedics now are the savior of many, many lives. Yeah.
Dennis, Bobby, do you have a favorite memory of Cody Carmichael, Spring Byington, and favorite memory of these two right here?
Shall I start with Hoagie Carmichael? It's just being with him around the piano in one scene, I think, is memorable. I wasn't aware of him as my brother was aware of him. I wasn't that stoked on the music at the time, but I knew I was with a guy who was a creator, and he was a gentleman, and it always impressed me that he would arrive at work in his Lamborghini, I guess it was, in a very elegant car. He'd drive up from Palm Springs, where he lived, and make that trek to be on the set with us. And I realized he was probably the most famous person around the set. So it was like being, again, one of the gods. And he was really just a gentleman with me. It was special.
I'll go with Springbind. At the time she came on Laramie, she had probably been in 200 major motion pictures.
Silent movies.
Yeah, she was
Springbind was a silent movie.
She was a queen of Hollywood, and she showed up with us ragged punch. That's about what she thought of us. She was beautiful on the set, sweet, but if we messed around too much, we got a little bit talking to once in a while, like, hey, it's about time to wrap this up. Let's get this scene going here. Come on, let's get this done. She was a little bit of a tough one, but yeah, sweet all the time, unless you messed around too much.
Was that question about Hoagie Carmichael to me, or
Do you have special memories?
or Spring? Both of them.
Yep.
I'll give you a quick on Hoagie and a quick on Spring. I was a huge fan of Hoagie Carmichael's. Hoagie Carmichael wrote the most famous love song that's ever been written, called "The Nearness of You." And of course, you all know Stardust. And as Bobby said, he lived in Palm Springs on the Thunderbird Golf Course, Frank Sinatra's golf course, on the 9th hole, and commuted every day from Palm Springs in a 2-hour drive back and forth to go to work. And most of the mornings, if he had an 8:30 call, by 9 o'clock he wasn't there. By 9:30 he wasn't there. The assistant director would call, and his housekeeper would answer. He said, "Oh yes, he's putting on the 9th hole right now." He totally forgot that he had those calls. The second show that we did, the one Eddie Albert was in it. I forget it. Yeah, we had an antique piano that they brought in. They paid thousands of dollars to get this antique piano that he was going to actually play in the show. So just before lunch, they started to rehearse it, and then they brought for lunch, and we all went to lunch. When we came back for lunch, that antique piano was in pieces on the floor. He didn't like the way it sounded, and he took it apart. Do you remember that at all? Oh, so we had to scrap that scene for days while they put this piano back together. That was horrible. We had so much fun with it. But now when Spring came on the show, this is in the 3rd season, you know, now she's the first woman that's going to be on the show. And there's a lot of guys around here, and the language could fly pretty good, like being in the Army. And all of a sudden, Smitty and I looked at each other and we said, wow, now we've got this lovely woman who's been in the business for 1,000 years. She's going to come on and be with us. We're going to have to clean it up, you know, somehow, because it's instinctive. It really is. You blow a line, you say, oh, I won't say it. Yeah. You do a lot of stuff. So Smitty and I said, God, how are we going to do that? So the first day Spring walks on the set, we met her, we go up to her. She's just a lovely lady. And we said, Miss Byington, we're so happy to have you on the show. And she said, well, you know, so I'm really proud to be a part of this show with all you guys right here. She says, I want you to know, I've been in the business for 65 years. She says, I've heard every word that's ever been said, so if you want to say hell, damn, whatever, I don't give a crap. Say it. Smitty and I looked at each other and said, this could be a good show.
And this. Hi, I'm a huge fan of Laramie and Emergency, much to my family's amusement. And I was just wondering, you did a stunt where, Robert, where you jumped off a second-story balcony onto a horse.
Say again,
you did a stunt where you jumped off a second-story balcony onto a horse. I was just wondering what it took to get to that point, because it's amazing.
When I jumped off the balcony, you mean onto the horse?
Yeah.
Well, what's the question?
What it took to prepare for that? Like, that's
what
amazing.
What did I prepare for?
Yeah.
I wish I had prepared more. I love westerns. I've watched westerns all my life. And you always see these westerns where the cowboy comes off the balcony and jumps onto the horse. Well, here it is in the script for Jess Harper to do it. Well, dadgummit, I'm going to do it. It's only about 20 feet, 15, 18, 20 feet or something like that. I had a good horse. And, but they didn't want me to do it, particularly my wrangler, Richie Britton. It's like, you can't do that.
He was probably afraid you'd hurt their horse.
What?
He was probably afraid you'd hurt their horse.
Well, that was my horse, by the way. It was my personal horse, so I trusted him a bunch. But I never jumped 15 feet into a saddle before, but I wanted to do it. That's what Jess Harper does. And yeah, it worked out fine. I did it. So it spooked the heck out of him. But no, I did all right. Yeah, I limped for a day or two.
I was just wondering, some of the lines, especially toward the end of an episode, it sounded as if they were maybe ad-libbed. I'm thinking particularly of Killer Legend, where Jeff states he hopes he's in same position as Sheriff Corey's sick father. He said, I hope I'm as good when I'm 83, if I make it to 83. Was that in the script?
It was certainly 100% in the script. It was very interesting now. And I've gotten, that was done many years ago. And I get so much mail or on my guest book saying, you made it.
Big honor for me to be here. This is the first time I've ever come and got to go to this event. I live in Wyoming, and as a horse person myself, I grew up poor, and I had to ride terrible horses. And I just was wondering for you, Robert, I've watched a lot of westerns in my life growing up. That was what we did as a family. And growing up on horses, I always watched the actors to see if they had good horsemanship skills. And I just want to say to you, Robert, I have never seen an actor in my whole life that had the horsemanship skills that you have. And I wonder, my question to you is, did you grow up on a horse? Did you grow up on a ranch? And what made you the rider that you became?
Well, I'll tell you, you make me feel like $1 million by saying that. I am kind of proud of the way I ride. But as I said earlier, I patterned my riding after Joel McRae. Now, the two best riders in the business were Ben Johnson and Joel McRae. But I was taught to ride a horse. I guess I was about 22, 23 years old, first time I really spent any time on horseback, by an actor named Chuck Courtney, who played Ann Reed on the Lone Ranger television series. He was my best friend, and he was a horseman. He had horses in the valley in California, had a great quarter horse, and he put me on that horse to start with when I was very young. And when I started acting in acting class with Richard Boone, in 1955, when I came back from the Army, Dick wanted all of us, there were 32 westerns in prime time, And Dick wanted everybody in the class to be able to ride a horse, because that's the more jobs you were going to get. So Chuck took us all out every weekend to the rancher's week, or rent horses and go out. And Chuck was the kind of guy that he'd have 8 or 10 of us on horseback, and he carried a big stick, a big heavy stick. And he'd ride past me, and if I was doing this, I would get this elbow cracked and you couldn't believe. He'd smack that elbow, and that elbow now went down here.
That's the first thing I noticed about you.
If I rode like this, my back got cracked. And I learned how to sit a horse the way you're supposed to for that. He really taught me how to ride a horse.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I have a question, actually, for Bobby and Dennis. You all had a lot of animals that you interacted with on those islands, which we actually all love. And also Robert, too, because whenever Robert would touch it, see a horse, he would touch the horse. And we always talk about that on fandom, how it's so sweet. But what was your, I guess, experience with working with the animals, both Bobby and Dennis? Because, you know, there's always animals, the dogs, the raccoons. This woodcock is so adorable. You know, even the frog that you wanted, Dennis, Bobby, because you couldn't keep the woodcock. But what was your experience working with the animals?
I don't remember the frog. I do remember the raccoon and a little puppy, and I'm sure there were some chickens I got to hold. But it was always a thrill to be an urban kid and get out there on the back set at Universal, which was just over the hill from where I was living in the hills. And it was the only place I ever got close up to these unusual critters from the farm and the wilds. The coyotes would be in the hills. I didn't get close to them. But this just was a thrill. And I always felt safe. The wranglers knew what they were doing. I never got bit, bothered by any of the animals. I could handle them and felt at ease. I only learned yesterday how it was for Dennis.
I don't remember having as many pets as Bobby did, but I do remember an episode with a frog. And I remember I read in the script that it was a scene set in town. And I read there was a frog in the script, and I'm thinking, oh, great, you know, a frog, right? No problem. Sometimes prop men think differently, and what they brought me was a giant jumping toad about yay big. It was stronger and almost bigger than I was. I was scared to death of this thing at first. It took a minute to get used to it. So, that's the pet I remember the most, is the giant jumping toad.
Boy, did we have frog legs that night, remember?
Well, I have a rather strange question.
Go. We'll come next to you.
Okay. I have a very strange question for any one of you here to answer. First of all, the show was top-notch. I probably love Westerns every bit as much as Mr. Fuller. And I've seen more all my life, but and Laramie was great. Everything he did was wonderfully managed. But I would love to know which one of your directors didn't know which way Laramie was. Sometimes it was that way, and sometimes it was that way from the ranch. And it's not me.
From the ranch.
We didn't get paid to know that.
I would like to ask all three of you about your favorite memories of John. On set or off set?
I think I better start. Yeah, I wish Smitty was here today.
I was thinking like this morning. I was wishing he was in the parade with us. this. It would have been so
Yeah, we talked about the break.
Yeah.
You would have loved it, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it would be so fantastic to have him here with us.
No, Smitty was a great guy. He was a lot of fun to work with. I mean, if all of you have watched enough Emergencies, you know that the relationship between he and I came off screen too. It wasn't on screen. We were very good friends. We had a lot of fun times together, and we loved going to work together. Most of you might know the story about the dressing room being knocked down. Do you all know that? Well, Smitty and I had a dressing room side by side on Whiskey Row, and I would get up in the morning, he'd get up, and we'd have a 7:30 call. I'd go into my dressing room and I'd start hollering, "What scene are we doing today?" You know, through the wall. And he'd say, "It's scene 42." You know, but right next to his dressing room was Frank McGrath, who played Wooster on Wagon Train. And a pretty wild man himself. So one particular night, we were all in Frank's dressing room, or in Smitty's dressing room, Frank McGrath, myself, and Smitty, and we were playing pitch, a Western card game that we played. And McGrath said, "What is it with you guys hollering at each other in the morning? I can hear you from my room." And we explained to him, "Well, because there's a wall between us, but we'd like to holler at each other about what scene we're going to shoot in a couple of minutes." And he said, "Well, and by the way, we'd had a couple of drinks." And at that point, McGrath said, "Well, I could fix that," and got up from the couch and ran to Smitty's wall, which is on the other side, this side of my dressing room, and put a big hole in it. And John looked at it and he said, "Well, I can do that too." He got up and he went over. Now the hole got bigger. I'm just sitting there going, "Wait a minute, what's going on with you two?" Well, between the two of them, they knocked the whole wall down from John's room into my room. Everything was in my room. Smitty's room was just beautiful. And of course, I said, "We've been drinking." We all had pretty good. So the next morning we came to work. Didn't even think about it, except when I opened the door and walked in my room, it was rubble. I couldn't even walk. What's going on? I finally got my wardrobe on, got down to the set, and the assistant director says, "Lou Wasserman wants to see you in his office." Lou Wasserman is the head of Universal Studios, one of the biggest moguls in television history, our boss. So we go up there and we walk into his office and the secretary says, "They're waiting for you." And we walk in, it's Patrick Kelly and Lou Wasserman, and Lou Wasserman says, "What the hell happened last night?" And John Smith said, "He knocked the wall down." I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "Why?" And I finally said, "All right." I said, "Well, here's what happened." And I explained it to him. He said, "All right, well, get out of here." And the two of us left. By the time we got back down on the set, which took about 10, 12 minutes from leaving the tower, getting back to where we were going, the head of all of the dressing rooms was there, getting ready to redo our dressing rooms and put a slider between the two rooms so you could open it and close it. And that's how it happened. But that's how Smitty and I got along.
Well, my experience with John Smith was really kind of limited because I was in school all the time. And I just know that being on the set with him, he was this fabulous looking guy. And he just had a charisma about him of kindness, in spite of being about the most beautiful person you'd ever meet. And so he just impressed me in how to handle yourself around people, around the stage, and be a star and be a great human being. That was what I got from John Smith.
What I remember that I really enjoyed about John was Offset, or maybe at the 100th anniversary party, or the 100th episode party, excuse me. We're planning on the 100th anniversary.
That's coming up.
Or the rap party. He loved to sing, and he loved to enjoy music. And I remember those moments because he looked always so happy when he was singing and enjoying music. But I do remember kind of what Bobby said. He had a quiet grace about him that really came through, I think. Really a sweet guy. I do have a story that, really sticks with me because I was traumatized by this. We were filming a scene where Jess has left town. He's mad, he's gone off, and everybody's really upset. And we're filming this scene outside the Sherman Ranch, between the ranch house and the corral. We're outside, and the whole crew's standing around, and they know it's a really emotional scene, so everybody's really quiet, really paying attention, and that doesn't happen all the time. Well, when you're doing a serious scene, it's different on set. I remember I look up at John and I say, Slim, do you think it's anything I could have done? And he looks down at me and says, probably. I froze. I was shocked. And everyone froze. And then everybody busted out laughing. And so I felt much better. I busted out laughing. But that really happens very rarely when the cameras are rolling. That costs money. So to do that kind of stuff is frowned upon when you're actually filming. So I was shocked, and I still remember the look on his face when he started laughing.
I'd like to ask, you had some good stars on there. I mean, some were kind of unsung heroes, and I think, people like Stuart Randall was a very solid cast member, but he was never shown as a star on the show. I'd just like to ask each of you, maybe you, not so much Bobby, I don't know if you had so much to do with Stuart, but if you did, maybe you could say something. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on Stuart.
They rarely let us into town. I was at the ranch, and the sheriff wasn't at the ranch that often, so I saw him around the set, and hung out with him a few times, but we rarely interacted on screen.
I don't recall.
No.
Well, you're talking about Stuart, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I worked with Stuart every day, I was the sheriff on the show. I love Stuart Randall. Stuart had a great career in this motion picture business for many years. He was a pro, and he was fun to work with. He was the quintessential sheriff as far as I was concerned. And we were friends. Stu and I knew each other for a long time. And it was always fun to do scenes with him because we had a lot of fun together. We could mess up, have some jokes, and have fun together. But no, he was a good actor, a lot of fun to work with. I always enjoyed when I had stuff to do with him.
You need a microphone.
I have a question for Bobby. What did you like more, directing, acting, or producing?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've only been a producer and an actor, and an associate producer and a production assistant. I did a documentary on the making of Butch Cassidy and another one on the making of Slaughterhouse-5, and that was directing, but it was really editing and being on the set, being allowed to be around these guys as they were making those movies. I had a great luck of getting to work with George Roy Hill on Night Film.
You were nominated, or you won an award for behind the scene work, didn't you? You did win an award, one of your movies.
For the documentary?
Yeah, I believe.
Butch Cassidy won an Emmy. It was unusual for a documentary at that time in 1969, 1970 to be considered or to be on the network, but Butch was such a hit. And I ran into a fairy godmother in New York that marketed it to the agency that put it on. and miraculously it ended up getting an Emmy. And the production assistant I worked with was producer, and he got the Emmy. And that was fine with me.
What you'd like to know, the ones that don't know, is that Bobby himself was nominated for an Emmy for his work before Laramie.
Well, that was what I was saying. I did the live television show with George Roy Hill. I had been getting little roles and featured roles, and he gave me the starring role in this Playhouse 90 called Child of Our Time, about a boy who survives concentration camps during World War II. His dad a fascist, his mother a communist, and it was a true story. And it was wonderfully cast with Maximilian Schell, and was very well produced, and I got to ride that wave, and miraculously ended up getting nominated. The year my brother was nominated as Best Supporting Actor, my dad got nominated for Best Editing on the Bob Cummings Show, and so a little miracle in time, the three of us getting nominated. We didn't win, but going to the awards was spectacular, sitting in front of Fred Astaire, having been nominated with Paul Muni and Mickey Rooney and Fred Astaire, and I heard there's another great actor. But it was a blur and a thrill.
I have a comment more than a question. I just want to say, Mr. Fuller, thank you for doing Laramie. I met my husband and we were dating, and he turned on TV and he put on a Western, and I was like, what are we watching? I had never, ever done the Western thing. And he said, you'll like it, just watch it. And I said, that Jess Harper is good looking. And so I started watching it, really enjoyed it, and to this day, he put on Cheyenne. Clint Walker, was also very good looking. And so we drove out from California because my husband says, we're gonna go and I'm gonna see Robert Fuller. And I said, okay, because every day he comes home for lunch for that hour and Laramie's on, and that's how he sets his time. And I just wanna thank you for doing that and giving my husband the passion of growing up with it and then introducing it to me, and we handed it on to our children. So I want to thank you.
This question is for Robert. I was at the Memphis Film Festival 2 years ago, and you told us how fast your quick draw was. And I'd like for you to tell everybody here, since there's a bunch of newbies, how fast was your quick draw?
Well, I've been recorded twice at 28 100ths of a second.
First of all, we all love all of you guys, and we know you were the guys on the screen that made Laramie so.
You all know this is Mary Brown. We were all happy to be privileged of appearing to her for many, many years in Arizona. One of the best festivals that we've ever done.
Thank you.
We love you, Mary.
Love you guys.
Sure do, Mary.
Now you got me all messed up. Okay, so we love all you guys. You guys are on the screen. Thank you, by the way. You guys were the guys that we saw on Laramie, but I would love for you to talk about John Champion because he was such a special man. So could you tell us some things about Champ? Who was the executive producer, by the way?
Oh, Champ?
Yeah, Champ.
Our producer?
Yes.
Oh my God, well, John Champion took over the show, the second show of our first season as producer. John had produced many westerns and written them. He wrote several of the Laramies that we did throughout the years. He hired the writers and the directors. And Champ was a personal friend of mine. We did a lot of skeet shooting, trap and skeet shooting together. Got along very well. And just had wonderful moments with John Champion. I loved him. Yeah, we were very close. Yeah, in the same vein, if I can say something, you're talking about the producer. You know, I'd like to bring up two other things. Our cameraman was Ray Ranahan. Ray Ranahan invented Technicolor and was the Technicolor consultant of Gone with the Wind. These are the type of people that the three of us got to work with every day. Our special effects man, Frank Brundell, one of the best special effects men in the world, won the Academy Award for Earthquake. So this is the caliber of people that worked on the series Laramie that we were fortunate enough to be in.
I have a question for Mr. Fuller.
Okay.
This is for Mr. Fuller. You did massacre at Fort Phil Kearny. How much research and background did you know about that fight and before you took the part?
Absolutely none. The studio offered me that part and read the script, and I liked it and did it. I know more about it today than I did then. Believe me, it's quite an interesting thing. I've had several people from the fandom write me and tell me that they have researched that part and really enjoyed it a lot. Fetterman was quite an interesting character to play. So, but I had a great time portraying him, and hopefully I did it as good as anybody could think of. But no, I enjoyed doing that show. I really did.
This question is for Dennis and Bobby. Bobby, you mentioned earlier how John Smith had influenced you, and especially as a very kind person. And so I'd like to hear from each of you how Robert and John influenced you in your development into adulthood.
Well, I think I've told you how John influenced me, and Robert influenced me because he and I seemed to be closer as we did scenes, and somehow I remember more vividly just being impressed on what an athlete he was. And I was ambitious as an athlete. I was taking fencing lessons as a kid and ended up fencing well and had talent and some agility. But I knew that Robert could do all these stunts and had all this strength as well as quickness. And I got a thrill that I got to get a gun, play fast draw with Bob, not get quite as fast, but get pretty quick. And be able, and he inspired me to be able. I would go home and do pull-ups and sit-ups and push-ups and run because his forearm was thicker than my leg. So he inspired me to strive. And I knew he was a veteran, I knew he was a horseman, and I wanted to be all those things as well.
Robert inspired my mother to tell me never grow up to be like Robert Fuller. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. My mother loved Robert like her own son and thought the world of him. And personally, Robert inspired me, or more or less molded me. I actually got to hang around with him. He would let me go home with him on the weekends and hang out at his house with Chuck Courtney. And I wanted to say, he taught Robert how to ride a horse, and he taught me how to play guitar. So Chuck Courtney was a big influence on me. But yeah, Robert was a hero. I mean, he was like to all of you as a kid. Who could be more of a hero than Jess Harper? But offset. Bob Fuller was just the same guy, He is Jess Harper. Bob's, you've seen it, right? That's who he is. So, yeah, he just inspired me because of just being an all-around really good guy. And that he was kind enough to be my friend when I was 9. Okay, so, First person to ever take me shooting was Robert.
My turn. First of all, W.C. Fields said, the last thing you want to do is work with animals and kids. He meant it. He had to do a bunch in those days. Well, I disagree. I had these two. And I want to tell you, I've never worked with two more professional actors. We were talking about one lines and everything. You guys never blew your lines, and you were just so much fun to work with. And we always had a good time working together.
Yes. Enjoying
the scenes. This wasn't just a job for us. This was a profession that was fun. And what we were doing, we're acting. We were having a good time together. And we would do our rehearsals and this and that. So I always enjoyed working with both of them tremendously. Had a lot of fun with them. And you and I double dated one time. Do you remember that? You know, the press was in the Oh yeah. And Dennis and I, Dennis was to stay to spend a weekend with me or whatever, and Chuck at our house and everything. And I think didn't I teach you how to smoke and drink?
Yeah. The first day on the set, my mom and I are standing together, and Bob walks up to John and says, yeah, we're going to teach him to smoke and drink and hide behind the set, you know, and my mom is just, oh my goodness, you know my mom.
I love her.
But that never happened. And not because of my mom, they were just jokes.
We had a very happy set, believe me, for all the years we worked on it. We were one of the few television shows in Hollywood where everybody got along.
Yeah.
He did try to get you your very first tattoo.
Yeah, we've told that story, but I think, who hasn't heard the tattoo story? Oh my goodness, Robert, you got a job.
Oh my God. Well, Atsuko, are you here today? There she is. Hello, darling. Anyway, Laramie became the #1 television show in Japan, I guess in the third season. And when Dennis would come and visit me sometimes, there were some Japanese restaurants that we used to go to in downtown Los Angeles. So my buddy Chuck was over in Tobago doing another series, but his girlfriend, myself, and Dennis, and my stand-in decided to go to this Japanese restaurant one night while he was spending the weekend. And I'd never had a tattoo in my life, even though I was in the Army in Korea and had the possibility, but I never did. But I always wanted one. So this particular night, we went to the Japanese restaurant, and we had quite a bit of sake. And as we came out to get back in the car, we realized we were parked right in front of the tattoo parlor. And I thought, all right, this is it. I'm going to go in and get a tattoo. So I walk in, the four of us walk in the tattoo parlor, and I look on the wall and I see all these tattoos. I see panthers, I see daggers, I see a little cherry on the wall. Kind of nice. So I want that cherry right here. I get my cherry, and the guy tattoos a cherry on my leg right there. And Dennis says, I want one too. And I've had enough sake. I said, all right, get in the chair. The Dennis gets in the chair.
I'm 11.
And the tattoo, how old were you?
11.
11. He gets in the chair, dumb Bob, and the tattoo artist is about to do it, and Chuck's girlfriend says, stop, you cannot do that to this kid. You know? And she says to me, she says, if you send him home with a tattoo, his mother will kill you. And it dawned on me, I said, oh my God, you're right. So I opened up the chair, so my stand-in gets in it, he gets a tattoo, so he's got cherries on my leg, and you escaped. But now you can fill in.
Yeah. Well, we told this story a couple of years ago, and I was sitting there listening to this story, and I thought to myself, I should just go get that tattoo. After all these years, I should just go get it. So I did. I got it right here.
And to make it worse, my best friend gets one too.
To make it much worse.
Oh, what a terrible tangled weed. It's terrible.
But yeah, we surprised Robert with these last year. And yeah, that was a pretty good one to finally show him that I would make that.
Right, any more questions, please?
Well, I just was going to make a comment, like the lady did here, that you guys, we love you. We're in the house every day. Your cake, every day we would usually have a list that if we seen that, pretty soon we've seen them all. I don't know, we're probably on the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time watching the episodes. And you're get tired of it.
But we let
You know what? That's what the pleasure of doing a TV series does for us. We're a guest at your house at least once a week, and sometimes more, and we love being able to do that.
Carol.
This is for Dennis and for Robert. You said Ladies' Days, your favorite episode. And I absolutely love the scene where Robert is lifting you up to get it out. As his son under some stands. And I was wondering how it felt to be lifted up, and how Robert felt lifting you up for that.
I can tell you how it felt to me. I was sure that I was going to end up in that water head first. Knowing Robert, I thought, this is it. He is so dunking me. But yeah, it's all fun. It wasn't the first time I got picked up and thrown around.
Bob couldn't hear it, so I'm just going to run it. Carol wants to know what you felt when you picked him up to dunk him in the bathtub. And actually, was that ad-lib? Did you know that was going to happen?
Oh no! Oh no!
I grabbed that squirt and dumped him.
Yeah, I had no idea that was coming.
Get away with that. I'm really
That was all Robert.
Do we have one? No, somebody? Yes, sir.
This question for Robert Ford. Do you enjoy target shooting or hunting?
I don't hunt so much anymore, but I shoot almost every day, you bet. Yeah, I got a shooting range on my ranch, and do a lot of shooting and fishing. Yes, thank you. You bet, I love it, yeah.
And a lot of guns, a lot of different types of guns.
One or two. We just not talk about how many guns I have. Not this day and age.
Karen.
This one's for Dennis. I guess you worked with two of my favorites, Edgar Buchanan and Margaret Hamilton. What was your remembrances when she came on the set, especially Margaret?
Did you say Margaret Hamilton?
Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West.
I don't recall that, but Buck Buchanan I know very well. Sure, I worked with Buck a bunch. Yeah. I love Buck. He was a great guy, great actor. I always loved having him on the show.
But you don't remember Margaret Hamilton being on?
I not really, not offhand right now.
Okay.
More questions?
I just should say we are all day. Please stand up. Please give that girl a microphone.
Thank you. This question is for Robert. Robert, I understand you play spoons. I brought a couple spoons. Could you play us a tune?
No, thank you. No, I have to play special spoons. Those won't work. Nice try.
We've got about 5 minutes left, guys. So we're going to move as quickly as we can.
I have a question. When we're done with the questions, I was wondering if Patrick Fuller could come up and have some reminiscence about having the dad on Laramie.
Well, we have to be out of here when the questions are done, so the room's free, if you want to use it, but we need to leave when the questions are done.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, please.
This is for Dennis and Robert Crawford, Bobby Crawford. We love both of the boys, but they were very different characters and different personalities. And I suspect a lot of other people would have liked to have seen them in an episode together, see Bobby or Andy come back. And had you all ever thought of that, what that episode would look like?
Not in the old days, but Bobby Crawford was telling me yesterday he had a great idea that they should have a Laramie show 60 years on.
Yes?
I was just wondering, what was your favorite, producing or acting? Or directing, because you said that you did direct.
Well, I love producing because I got to do it for 20 years. And it's sort of me fishing around as what do I want to do when I grow up? And I never quite figured that out. And the fact that I got 20 years to be around a great director and assist in some great films like Butch Cassidy, The Sting, Slapshot, eclectic fellow he was just really fulfilling. And was able to raise a family well in the course of doing that. And had moved on to an accounting job for another 18 years. So I found another thing I could do pretty well that carried my family and I forward. And fortunately or unfortunately, all three children are in the movie business, the reality business. And we'll see how they do, because God knows how you do when you get into this kind of business.
Is my son Patrick still in the audience? Oh, there you are. That's my son Patrick. And it was kind of interesting for me because we were sitting side by side back here watching the first shows, Stay Stop. And it's the first time I've ever seen the show with all of you here. Outside in my own home watching it. And Patrick, of course, wasn't even born. But I just tapped it as we were watching it. I turned to him and I said, I was 26 years old. It's amazing.
Okay, one last question, I'm afraid, then we need to go.
I have a comment. Just a comment.
Hold on with the microphone.
We can do this all again tomorrow, I think.
Yes, we will, so we'll have more chances.
Thank you all. I love all those, and
I'm sorry?
this is my first time.
Would you stand? I'm sorry, we can't see you.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there? Okay.
This is for Robert Froelich. You were so good about staging scenes and the stunts and knowing where the camera was and keeping the horse from, stealing the scene and all that. Did you ever consider directing? Did you, or did you want to, or did you not want to? Because I think you were really good at that.
That's a great question. Thank you. I would have been a good director. I think actors make great directors. It's always like working with actors because they know more about us than whatever. That's not to take anything away from great directors that are not actors. But anyway, yes, I would have loved to have directed, but on Laramie and Wagon Train, I mean, we'd work 5 days a week, and there was no time for anything like that. But when I signed, and we would work 11 months out of the year, and I would only get 1 month off during both of those shows. But when I signed to do Emergency, I had in my contract that I could direct if I wanted to. but it turned out that we got all shows done in 7 months, and I would have 5 months off. I didn't want to direct, I wanted to go fishing. And that's what I did, yes. Yeah, great question.
Okay, well, listen, thanks very much for all the questions. Dennis said we'd do it again tomorrow, and we will. Tomorrow we're going to be showing Dragon at the Door, which was the introductory episode for Mike Williams. So I hope many of, if not all of you, are coming along to see that and bringing more good questions, because you'll have a 90-minute session then. But,
Tony.
In the meantime, I'd like to thank the guys. It's been a real privilege to be able to be with them and to listen to the stories.
Thank you all very, very much.